Excellent, thank you. Welcome, everyone. Today is Tuesday, November 15th, 2022, and this is a regular meeting of the Governing Board of the Litchfield Elementary School District. This meeting is hereby called to order. We will begin this evening's meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand and join me. Now, please join me in a moment of silent reflection. Thank you.
Before we move on, I would like to request that we make a change to the agenda and move our public comment to now before we do our recognitions, if that would be, do I need to make a motion for that, Amy?
Okay, so board member Zaidema has a point of order that she would like to move the agenda item number 4, community opportunity for comment, above before we do recognitions and presentations. As is stated on our agenda, the governing board can reserve the right to change the order of items on the agenda, with the exception of public hearings. So I have a first for this. I will go ahead and second that motion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. So we will continue our meeting with community opportunity for comment.
Before we start, I would like to make a point of order. I was out on the street a while ago and a LESD employee drove by, actually stopped their car, rolled down the window and asked, where had I been?
Order. This is not a point of order, Mr. Honak. A point of order.
The point of order
with the meeting.
How do you know it's a point of order? You always interrupt me before, like a person, a child who doesn't understand to wait until someone makes their point.
Does it have to do with our meeting this evening?
Yes, it has to do with the meeting this evening. And first off, number one, technical staff, I can barely hear anybody with my volume turned up all the way. So that's part of the meeting. The other part of the meeting is I was elected by 26,000 people, and there are people out in the public that don't even know that I'm on the board anymore. And they are entitled to know that I am on the board. My name is Jeremy Honak. I am on the board. And the only reason I'm not sitting up there is because the board president, Kimberly Moran, and Melissa Zaidema and Danielle Clymer commit perjury in a court of law to illegally keep me from attending board meetings. What their motives were, I don't know, but that's why I am not there. And you know what?
Going off the agenda.
You don't need, this is a point of order that the public needs to know. And they're entitled to know. And when an employee drives up to me that knows me very well, an LESD employee, and they don't even know.
A point of order, Mr. Honak.
Well, according to you, it isn't, but I think the public needs to know that I'm a member of the board meeting. And you know what, Ms. Moran, your job is to encourage free discussion. And all you ever do is tell people to be quiet and shut up, and it's out of order. You're incorrect. It is a point of order.
We'll now be moving on to the community opportunity.
Let the record show that I'm being cut off yet again, and that this is an illegitimate school board meeting.
I will now read the disclaimer. Public comment. Pursuant to ARS 38-431.01H, this agenda item provides an open call to the public, allowing individuals to address the governing board on any issue within the jurisdiction of the board. Items not listed on the agenda may be brought to the governing board's attention under this section of the agenda. Due to the open meeting law, the governing board cannot discuss or take any action on items not listed on the agenda. Therefore, pursuant to ARS 38-431.01H, Response to public comment about matters not appearing on the agenda will be limited to individual board members who may ask staff to study the matter, respond to any criticism, or ask that the matter be put on a future agenda for further consideration and decision at a later date. Please limit your comments to no more than 3 minutes, and no more than 30 minutes will be devoted to the public comment portion of the agenda. When you approach the podium, please state your name for the record. This evening, our first public participant is Mr. Mike Finnegan.
Excuse me, technical crew. I would like to hear what the people are saying. I hear absolutely nothing. No sound whatsoever. Is
Can you
somebody
hear
out
me
there
now?
speaking?
Can you hear me now?
I hear now, yes.
Okay, it wasn't turned on. Hello, my name
I
is
didn't
Mike.
hear the Pledge of Allegiance. I don't hear half the stuff going on. I have a body cam right here. I'm not making it up.
We did do the Pledge of Allegiance. Now we're doing public speaking. They moved it up.
Thank
Okay?
you. And the volume is extremely low overall. I can't turn it up any higher. My computer has an incredible sound system, and it's somehow the feed coming over is extremely low.
Okay, let's go. I'd like to talk about the 15 math specialists from the ESSER funding. The 15 people, 11 of them came out of LESD. 70% of the math specialists were teachers in LESD. So what about the classroom that they're coming out of, and the 20 students that they're leaving? Who's replacing their positions? The new math specialists, 30% came from outside, 5 of them. 8 schools are using math specialists, 2 specialists at each school. 6 of those schools are Title I schools. And we have 5 new principals this year at different schools. L. Thomas Heck Middle School, pre-COVID, had a grade of B and went to C post-COVID and has a new principal. There is a serious problem going on in that school with academics. And the 7 schools not using math specialists, Palm Valley Elementary went from a grade A to B post-COVID and also has a new principal. However, only 8 schools have math specialists. However, no schools have been immune to academic impacts. Tonight, you're going to celebrate an academic rebound from COVID, which is good. But in 2020, you decided to close the schools for a year, doing immense damage to student academics and social well-being. So celebrate your rebound tonight, but get back to business, especially with Thomas Heck School. It's got a C grade. I'd also like to talk about excessive stipends and applicants. There were 13 certified teachers who abandoned their contracts after assigning them. Contract abandonment seems to be common for teachers here in LESD. It needs to stop, and there needs to be accountability. That needs to be a letter of censure or formal reprimand, and having their credentials suspended for a year. Or do not consider promotions or better paying jobs as good course to abandon a contract. You need more accountability there to solve that serious problem. There's also excessive training stipends everywhere on tonight's report. We have Ukaru. How many Ukaru incidents occurred in the school year? We have nurses at every school. How many times has a CPR been performed? We have all this training for CPR and Ukaru, thousands of dollars being
Thank you,
spent.
Mr. Finnegan.
How many incidents have they had?
Our next public participant is Michaela Morey.
Hi, I'm Michaela Mori, and I am here to speak on agenda item 7B. And first, I would just like to thank you for offering the opportunity for public comment. In my experience, that's not always offered, so I appreciate that. And I had sent an email to you over the weekend.
I'd love to hear you if you could speak louder, please.
I sent an email to each of you over the weekend requesting an appeal. However, after reviewing the policy GCQF, I'm not certain under which provision I'm being disciplined. That was never clarified, so I'm not sure if I am able to request an appeal at this time. However, more of the details are in that agenda or in that email that I sent. So if you have any questions, I'm here when we get to that agenda item. And also under policy GCQF, and a certificated employee cannot be suspended with or without pay. However, I've been on suspension for 63 days after working for 1. And never have I ever spoken to anybody except my immediate supervisor and Leanne Reichs, the HR manager. I've never met or seen the superintendent. So I just wanted to make sure everybody got that email and know that I'm here for questions. Thank you.
That is the conclusion of our community opportunity for comment. We will now move on to our recognitions and presentations, which will be presented by Director Nuanez.
President Moran, governing board members, Superintendent Gunning, guest here tonight. We have quite a few celebrations tonight. First and foremost, we'd like to start off with a thank you to our community for supporting the M&O override continuation. It was a long journey, but we are appreciative of the support of our community. At this point now, we can move forward. We can continue to provide the high quality education by supporting our teachers at the level that they deserve with the programs that we're able to implement and also with nurses at every campus. Second, we'd like to celebrate Arizona Health and Physical Education Awards. This organization provides leadership through continuing professional development, through community-based physical activity programs, fostering health and active physical literate youth. They awarded the Adapted Physical Education Teacher of the Year went to Palm Valley teacher Kelly Jordan, and the Administrator of the Year went to Mabel Pageant Elementary Principal Leslie Willis. Congratulations, Leslie. Next on our celebration recognition. Now this one's very special. This one has been a long time coming. The Litchfield Elementary School PTSA has been working for many years on trying to acquire a playground for their students. It's been a lot of hard work with the supply chain shortages and all those challenges that we've met through COVID has kind of really pushed that whole project back. But they've just been, their passion and they're diligent, and they've been pushing forward to make this happen with Principal Hopper at LES. Now, here comes the big part of the celebration is, you know, with the increasing cost of that project, they were quite a bit short as the prices have increased. And with our partnership, our outstanding partnership with the Kiwanis Club of Litchfield, that they stepped up and provided $25,000 to help complete that project and get it off the ground. So congratulations to LES, and thank you to the Kiwanis of Litchfield Park. Can you please come up here? Sabina, can we come up here and take a picture with you guys real quick? Jennifer? Thank you again, Erica. And definitely last but not least, would like to celebrate, coming out of this pandemic and getting students back into the classroom brought a lot of challenges for our educators. But their hard work and determination of our amazing staff and students, those challenges were met head on. Recently, the Arizona State Board of Education, in conjunction with the Arizona Department of Education, presented their 2021-22 AF school letter grades for all public schools statewide. These reports provide information about student achievement, college and career readiness, student growth, and other key areas of interest to families and the general public. We are proud of the accomplishments of all of our schools, and we are happy to celebrate that the number of A-rated schools has doubled from 6 to 12. Now think about that for just 1 second. That's 12 out of 15 schools. Now, the remaining 3, we had 2 Bs and 1 C, but in no way does that diminish all the hard work that these schools are doing with their students. Because we are a district of continuous improvement, we will continue to strive for the best educational achievements possible for all of our students. We applaud all of our hardworking students and educators who have demonstrated tremendous resolve and leadership under difficult conditions. And we are confident that this LASD family is ready and driven to ensure that our students have the resources and support needed to achieve and maintain educational excellence. Let's celebrate all of our schools. Can I have all of our principals present, please come up for a picture, please. Congratulations to all of our schools.
Before we break, congratulations to all our schools. Every single one of you guys have been doing amazing. And I hope that you do not let anybody's comments bring you down, because our district is amazing. Our schools are doing great. And we know it no matter what we're hearing from the few voices that might be out. So congratulations to all of you and to this whole district as a whole.
We have some refreshments to take a moment and celebrate this wonderful occasion. So we will take a brief break and be back in just a few minutes. Thank you.
It does. So,
members are ready to reconvene? Board Member Honak, are you there and ready to reconvene?
Yes, I am right here.
Excellent. Then we will address agenda item number 5, which is our consent agenda. I will go through the board members and ask if they have any items to remove. Dr. Dowling, do you have any items you would like to remove from the consent agenda?
I'm losing track of this. The hearing.
Can't hear anything.
I'm not saying anything, Jeremy.
Well, I heard your voice. I just didn't hear what you were saying.
V, item V. I'd like to discuss that just for a second.
Would you like to remove it, or do you just have a question on that
I
item?
have a question.
Okay, excellent.
I could not hear what Dr. Dowling said, which item he removed. Folks, I'm not making it up here. You know, I'm really not.
6V. I'd like to discuss 6V. Victor.
He is not removing the item from the agenda. He would just like to discuss that prior to approval. Board Member Clymer, do you have any items you would like to remove?
No, thank you.
Board Member Zeideman, do you have any items you'd like to remove?
No, thank you.
Board Member Honak, do you have any items you would like to remove?
I'm not sure. I was looking for, somebody told me that there was an item approval for 9,500 for 9 people to go to a character education program. The leader in me, is that in this consent agenda? I don't even see it on the agenda.
That is not in the consent agenda. That is going to be item 7C, approval of out-of-state travel request to attend Leader in Me symposium.
Okay, thank you for clarifying. Let me get over here to Zoom. Thank you for clarifying that for me. And so I have nothing that I want to remove out of the consent agenda. Thank you.
All right, then we will address, I do have 2 items that I have questions on. So I would like to address the questions in agenda item order. My first question is on agenda item 6L, supplementary contracts wages for 2022-2023. There is an item listed in these stipends that I just want to get some clarification on for 2 reasons. The first reason being this is a service that we've provided, and I would like to know if it's a service that we should expand potentially, if that would be helpful. And the second item is just to find out a little bit more background about that item. So my question is about the 2022 pre-service staff daycare stipend. Superintendent Gunning or the appropriate administrator, could you please tell me more about that program? How many sites offer that? How many people participate in that program?
Sure, absolutely. And I do want to clarify, this was actually on your stipend agenda back in September and inadvertently it got left off in October. So when they brought it back, they highlighted it again. So you actually had already approved this back in September. But it is a service that several of our staff members do take advantage of. We had 30 children attend, and our staff members able to pay a daily rate of $22 a day, so they could pick and choose which day if they needed to access the care. The care was offered at Palm Valley and Maple Pageant, being centralized locations, but anyone could bring their child to any of those locations. So it grows or expands based on the need of the program. So it has been something that's been very helpful because a lot of times right before summertime is ending, we have staff members that are needing assistance with daycare before school starts.
Okay, and do you happen to know if this program has been consistently utilized, or if there's certain years that we have utilized it more or less than others?
I am not exactly sure what year we started. It's been for a couple years. I believe this might be the 3rd year, but I will follow up with Dr. Stair and we'll put it in a Friday update to ensure the numbers are accurate.
Okay. I just want to make sure that, because these are like additional in-service days, right? So some of these are optional, and I just want to make sure that our staff members have the adequate support that they might need if they want to participate in this, if that additional daycare might be helpful.
Thank you.
Okay, excellent. I also have a question on agenda item 6U, which is to approve the addition of Dr. Doozy and Ms. Lewis to the list of representatives of the district who may confer with council for the 2022-2023 fiscal year. Dr. Doozy's position seems appropriate to me based on the org chart, but Ms. Lewis, there's no one else at her level on the org chart that's included in that. So could you tell me a little bit more about this specific request?
Absolutely. So Sarah Lewis took over the HR generalist position, which one of the main components of that position is employee relations. And so we wanted to make sure that she has access to legal counsel in regards to either next steps or guidance, and that she's not being held up in any process waiting for myself or HR Director Reichs. So this just helps streamline that process, and she'll be handling the majority of all employee relations issues.
Okay, and just because I'm not well versed in this, how often would you say HR contacts the attorney for additional questions or guidance?
Not often. Usually it's for the bigger items, and it's or something that's new to us, if we're just seeking clarification. And then whoever does email or reaches out to legal counsel, I'm always notified and aware that that has taken place, so that I'm in the loop.
Okay, thank you. Dr. Dowling, you have the floor for your question.
It's my turn for item Victor V. I have a question. It's just, when we approve this list, the district superintendent or whoever the HR can pick anybody from this list. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, because I have my personal attorneys on here. I know about half of these people. Do I abstain from this vote, or does it make any difference? Does it mean anything that these professionally, legally, I've known quite a few of them? Anybody have any idea?
I don't.
Or
We actually
we
have
an attorney
legal
in-house, so
counsel
let's ask
here
her.
to answer that question. That's a great question.
Hi, Dr. Dowling. My name is Carrie O'Brien from Gus Rosenfeld. Okay, sorry about that.
who are you with?
I'm with Gus Rosenfeld, the district's law firm. So thank you for raising that concern. If you are in business with any of the people listed on the hearing officer list, that would be the only circumstance where I believe you would have a statutory conflict of interest. If you're concerned about the appearance of impropriety because you know these people personally, it would be your decision if you wanted to recuse yourself from the vote.
Okay.
Based on that answer, Dr. Dowling, would you like to remove this item from the consent agenda?
No, I don't have much business other than I pay one law firm on occasion. I mean, I pay out. I don't get any business deals. It's a one-way deal. So I don't. No, I feel comfortable making a vote on this.
Okay, then I will entertain a motion.
I motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Before there's a second, I actually had questions. I
Oh.
apologize. When you asked me if I wanted to pull something off, I didn't. I should have explained that I also had questions. So
No
should
problem.
we
Ask
second
away.
and then proceed, or should we stop now with the motions?
We should second and then discuss, and then we can vote if there are no. I do believe.
Okay, so motion, I will second the motion to approve, but I have a question.
Is there additional discussion? Yes, there is.
Okay, I
Board Member
apologize for doing that out of order. My question is on item 6S, which is the approval to the revisions to the Traditional Academy Program Guide. I don't have any specific questions on the Traditional Academy Program, but I did notice, I believe it's on page 7 at the end, that there were additional curriculum offerings. And specifically like in the area of math, I know they do Singapore math. Now they're, I think, being offered iReady or some of the other math curriculum that we have. I'm just wondering how is that designation made? I mean, is that made at the teacher level? Is that made at the school level? Because now, I mean, more resources are better than less. So no question about that. All of this is approved curriculum. I'm just wondering, since this is being introduced, how does that work exactly for these kiddos?
Great question. So what we have found is that oftentimes our traditional academy teachers feel isolated. They're doing their very own curriculum that has nothing to do with their grade level and what they're working on. So our traditional academy teachers will want to do wonders or iReady with their teammates because that's what they're collaborating on during their PLC time. So this is just another way that they can bring that in, whether it's just the assessment and they're still using Singapore, or maybe using more pieces of that. It could be during win time. It could be in the classroom for their core time as well.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I have one more question, so stay up. I think you would be the one to answer it too. Thank you. The next one is on 6T, which is the Made for Me literacy for the self-contained. My question really is just in the presentation of it. I think that it sounds great, but there was no way to actually see what it was in there. I did a little bit of internet research and I think I found it and it looks amazing. However, I'm just wondering if in the future, it's hard to say that we want to approve curriculum without actually seeing what it is or what it does. I mean, the explanation is great, but is there a way to see that differently, or?
I can try to add additional pieces for it. We haven't purchased any of it, so that's where it gets complicated. We don't actually have it until you've approved it.
Have the rights to have it? Okay, I
Yeah.
understand. I just,
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, it sounds amazing. I just can't actually see it or feel it or whatever. So I understand. Thank you.
You're
That was
very
just the
welcome.
clarification I wanted. I am finished with my questions. Thank you.
Okay, any other discussion on the consent agenda? Having a first and a second, I will call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next up on our agenda is item 7A, discussion and possible action on the administration's statement of charges seeking dismissal of employee Michaela Moray, instructional coach. This will be presented by Superintendent Gunning and Director Reichs.
Madam President, members of the governing board, I'm actually going to turn it over to our legal counsel to present.
Good evening, members of the board. My name is Carrie O'Brien again from Gust Rosenfeld. Tonight, the district administration is proposing that the board issue the presented statement of charges for instructional coach Michaela Murray. The statement of charges contain charges and details the facts supporting the basis for the administration's recommendation to terminate her employment. Ms. Murray was provided with a draft copy of charges through her legal counsel, and she has been on paid non-disciplinary administrative leave. The process to terminate a teacher is governed by state law, Arizona Revised Statute 15539, not policy GCQF. Governing Board Policy GCQF governs the administration of minor discipline of certificated staff members. When considering whether to adopt the statement of charges to terminate a teacher, a certificated employee, in this case, an instructional coach, the governing board does not determine whether the allegations contained in the statement of charges are true today. Rather, the board only decides today whether the district would have sufficient cause to dismiss Ms. Murray, assuming the allegations in the statement of charges are proven to be true. If the governing board moves to adopt the statement of charges tonight, legal counsel will provide Ms. Murray with the signed statement of charges and exhibits. The service of the statement of charges is outlined in statute, and I will ensure that she gets appropriate service. When served with a statement of charges, the instructional coach has 10 calendar days from the date served with a notice in which to request a hearing. If the teacher does not request a hearing, she would be terminated automatically at the expiration of 10 calendar days. Ms. Murray is not given the opportunity to address the statement of charges at this proceeding tonight. If Ms. Murray requests a hearing, the superintendent will select the hearing officer from the list of hearing officers that you've just adopted on the consent agenda, and that's published by the Arizona Department of Education. The governing board may take action at this meeting tonight to, one, adopt the statement of charges, and second, to delegate Ms. Gunning the authority to select the hearing officer on your behalf, if a hearing is requested by Ms. Murray. I'd like to briefly outline the statement of charges. It alleges the following unprofessional conduct. First, failure to disclose a letter of reprimand issued on July 15th, 2022 by a previous employer in her application to the Litchfield Elementary School District. Second, failure to disclose that she was placed on administrative leave on August 26, 2022 by her previous employer and was found to have engaged in unprofessional conduct with staff and a parent. Third, failure to disclose that she was under contract at the time she accepted the position at Litchfield Elementary School District. And fourth, falsification of her application to be certified by the Arizona Department of Education. The district administration hereby presents this notice of intent to dismiss the certificated educator and statement of charges for the board's consideration. I'm happy to answer any questions that you have.
I will open the floor to any questions from board members.
I don't have any questions specific for legal counsel in terms of these statement of charges. I will say thank you for giving us all of the information in terms of what we were looking at and being really thorough and explaining that. So thank you. What I would like to do, what I would like to request for a future meeting and or study session discussion at a later time is to better understand the process that we go through in hiring employees from the time that we interview them, sign their contract, and receive any background check or checks from the Department of Education, certification checks, et cetera. I see some gaps that potentially could be filled. So I just want to know, better understand what that process is. I don't think that affects at all the decision this evening in terms of the charges for me personally. But I just want to put it on record that if we could have that conversation about what that looks like, that would be my request.
Is that possible, Superintendent Gunning?
So we can add that to our list of items.
Excellent, thank you. Any other board member questions for clarification before we potentially take action on this item?
Yes, one more. I apologize. This is directly related to this. If the approval of statement of charges is, if it's approved this evening and a hearing is requested, what is the next step for the board and what is that timeline?
So if Ms. Murray requests a hearing, then we'll work with her to select the hearing officer and then schedule the hearing. It's an informal administrative process. It would probably take a month for a hearing to happen, and then it would be a recommended decision of the hearing officer that would then come back before the board to accept, reject, or modify as its final decision.
And if the statement of charges is not approved this evening, what happens to tomorrow?
I'm sorry to be a pain, but I think as the attorney from Gus Rosenfeld, I couldn't really quite hear. There's going to be a hearing, and then the results of that hearing will come back to the board and we vote on that. I couldn't quite get that.
Yes. So if the instructional coach requests the hearing would be conducted in coordination with the administration, and then the recommended decision of the hearing officer would come back before the board to accept, reject, or modify. And that would be the final action of the district.
Okay, I think I heard that pretty good. I don't know if the microphone's on up there, what's going on, but thank you.
Ms. O'Brien is wonderfully tall, and I think she is a little far from the microphone. So we've now given her her own mic so that she can get closer.
Thank you.
Okay, sorry, my second question. So if the statement of charges is not approved, what does that mean? What happens tomorrow?
So I believe if the statement of charges is not approved, then the district administration could potentially pursue other discipline in accordance with that policy GCQF. And there would be due process rights associated with any other discipline
But she would remain on administrative leave.
until the district decided what to do, correct?
Okay, thank you for clarifying.
Okay, so a follow-up to that, she would be on administrative leave if we didn't approve it. So we say we do approve it, and we move forward, is she staying on administrative leave until the hearing? Basically, you're saying after that hearing happens and all that stuff, she would be on administrative leave the whole time?
So if the employee doesn't request a hearing.
Does that person have a microphone? You said she got a microphone now or whatever. Over here is just the same thing, not hearing anything. I'm not making it up. I just don't know why I'm at this meeting right now because I can't hear. It's not me, it's you guys. I mean, I hear Ms. Moran very loud, everybody very loud, Dennis half the time, and the speaker I hear not at all.
Sorry about that. So if the employee does not request a hearing, then her employment with the district terminates automatically in 10 calendar days. So during that time, she would remain on administrative leave. If she requests a hearing, until the decision comes back before the board for final consideration, she would still remain on paid administrative leave.
So in this process usually takes 2 months, 3 months.
So I would say honestly, since with the holidays, it would probably come back before the board in January. We could try to expedite it as quickly as possible, but with the holidays.
Oh, with the holidays, oh, hell yeah.
I think I missed something in here because I'm not seeing exactly when this person was put on administrative leave. It was quite a long time ago, was it not?
It was in September.
September, quite a long time ago. 2 months, 4 months, 5 months being paid for being home. Okay.
So the item before us tonight is either to proceed with the statement of charges or to not proceed with the statement of charges as presented. Do any other board members have questions or information they would like to add to the discussion at this point? Dr. Dowling, can I ask you a question as an administrator with experience? Is this something that you have gone through in the past with this type of dismissal?
Usually, we've had somebody within the school district administrator that has been trained in to conduct hearings up to dismissal. And in some cases, we would seek outside counsel. But this is, what was the question exactly again?
Well, my question was just, I've been on this board for almost 5 years, and this is my first time doing this. So I didn't know if you had some experience or maybe any things that you would like to enlighten us with regarding this type of process.
Just the procedure in which they engage in that was outlined. Myself, I conducted one hearing, but usually the assistant superintendent or somebody trained. This does happen. And sometimes it's a grievance. Things happen, contesting discipline and things of that nature. Not usually a dismissal. I could see why you'd want legal counsel for this is, you can see it. This is, it's pretty serious allegations. So I would proceed with it.
I don't have any further questions. I would just like to make a motion on the floor to approve the statement of charges as requested.
I second.
Having a first and a second, I will call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next item on our agenda is item 7B, discussion and possible action on hearing procedures and whether to appoint a hearing officer for the dismissal of employee Michaela Morey, instructional coach, and whether to delegate authority to the superintendent to select a hearing officer. This item will be presented by Superintendent Gunning.
Madam President, members of the governing board, we would ask the governing board to authorize the administration to select a hearing officer and that the hearing officer hear the evidence, prepare a record, and issue a recommendation to the governing board in the event of Ms. Morey requests a hearing on this matter.
I have a question. There are a few people obviously on this list. How will you narrow that down, or is there criteria that you'll go through to select?
That's a list of all the different hearing officers. So usually it helps to narrow it down. Some are more specialized in like student discipline. Some are more specialized in employee relations discipline, those types of things. So.
Just as a confirmation, I believe I know the answer to this, but I know in the past, in other disciplinary actions that we've had, we typically go the route of a hearing officer, as we just suggested when we approved it in the consent agenda. It's obviously your recommendation that we do this, so you would select from this list. They would come back to us, as Carrie said, potentially in January. So that would be the end of this process for the board until the hearing officer came back.
Correct.
Okay.
Question. What does it cost to get a hearing officer? It seems like it's kind of in the Department of HR, but I can see there are a lot of issues here. I did read the complaint.
They vary in cost. I don't know, Carrie, if you happen to know exactly. I want to, oh gosh, do you remember, Megan? You might remember.
I'm sorry, I don't know the exact cost that the hearing officer would be. I'm not sure.
Okay.
We can get that information.
We can get that information.
Yeah, because it just seems like LESD is all kinds of stuff that seems like they're people paid to do things. But anything that actually involves anything, we got to go out and hire some outside expert to tell us how to behave or how to be a leader, or how to whatever, how to teach and things like that. So I mean, I've been involved in the business world, and I read what the charges are here, and I've actually had people with much more severe financial things and stuff like that. And then, it was just basically the accountant handled it or somebody like that. We did have a little discussion, but didn't have to go out and get an expert. So I don't understand why we have a HR person or we have some administrators here. You can't just sit down and talk with this person. And, it seems like all the charges are very well documented and come up with something. I think it's a culture of making a mountain out of something is just a simple thing.
Thank you for your input, Board Member Honak. I will speak for myself when I say that when an attorney gives me advice, I like to listen to them. So I would be more than happy to tell you what the alternatives are here, and you are welcome to make a motion. If we determine not to have a third party come in to determine this case for us, we as a board have to sit down and review the evidence and determine for ourselves if in fact this is factual, and go through the entire process. So we become, in theory, the judge and the jury with that.
Well, that's just plain. You're just making stuff up. That's not true. That's not true. It's ridiculous.
Ms. O'Brien?
President Moran and board members, that is an option for the governing board to hold the hearing itself. Usually we don't recommend that because it's a burden on your time. Sometimes these hearings will last up to like 5 or 6 hours, depending on the complexity and the arguments made by the parties, but that is an option for the board.
Thank you. Any other board member comments?
Can you just clarify, this is pretty normal practice for school districts to hire someone to come and do this, right?
Correct. You do have to go through training to become a hearing officer. And then you get on a list of where districts can select and choose you. It is highly recommended and has been since the time I took my position that you hire a hearing officer outside of your district to reduce the liability upon the district itself.
Thank you.
Well, another thing too, I just, before we leave this discussion, I think to be fair and impartial and to protect the rights of the employee and the district, I do think having a third party is extremely important, especially someone that's trained and does this all the time. So while I realize the ultimate responsibility falls on the board, I do agree with the recommendation to not have us go through that process because we are not trained. And I think for fairness and protection of the employees' rights and the district's rights, having a hearing officer is a better way to go. So I will move that we approve the selection of a hearing officer as recommended.
I second.
Having a first and a second, I will call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Our next item is item 7C, approval of out-of-state travel requests to attend Leader in Me Symposium. This item will be presented by Dr. Ducey.
Good evening, Madam President and governing board members. My name is Dr. Ducey. I'm the Deputy Superintendent of Academic Success, and I'm here tonight to revisit a governing board study session in March 2022. The governing board was able to review the impact of Leader in Me at one of our schools, Verado Heritage, which I have Principal Noche here with me as well. She's right behind me. At that time, we were able to see the impact at Verado Heritage of the program Leader in Me, as well as the accolades and accomplishments of Principal Noche's staff at becoming a lighthouse school. Am I saying that correctly? Lighthouse school, yes. So based on that conversation in that governing board meeting study session, it was recommended by the board that we pursue other schools also interested in pursuing this program to see if the impact was also present, specifically in our Title I schools. As you can remember at Verado Heritage, they opened with the program. And so really being able to see the impact of this program at a school with baseline data. We have a school that you actually already heard about during that study session, which was Rancho, and they are interested. Principal Zuniga has definitely been working with Principal Noche in establishing the Leader in Me program. It's already up and running with the critical attributes. And we have a very exciting opportunity that Leader in Me is back to meeting and training with their trainers in person. And we have some place that is, we wish it was in Arizona. It has been in Arizona in the past, but this time the closest training with this opportunity is in Las Vegas, which is why we're here to ask you to fulfill the opportunity to offer this program to our other schools as discussed by the governing board in that study session. We'd like to extend that opportunity and bring a team from both Verado Heritage to sustain the program they already have in place, as well as our new school that is also dedicated time to this program.
I will open the floor to any questions from board members about this request.
I have Jeremy Honak here. Ms. Juicy, thank you very much for presenting that. Very curious about this. Is there been any correlation with academics with the Leader in Me program, or is that even a fair question? Is even intended for that?
Yes, absolutely. And remember, correlation is not the same as cause and effect. Correlation is as one thing increases, we can predict the reliability that another thing will increase. And I know I don't have the data in front of me to give you exact numbers, so I don't want to give you misinformation, but I believe, if I remember correctly from my visual memory, Verado Heritage Elementary, since implementing the program, has always achieved within the top 2 or 3 of all of our schools, specifically in 8th grade math. So we have really seen the potential of this program to be correlated with empowering our students. The biggest part of this program that I've learned so far, and I'll actually invite Principal Noche because she is definitely the content expert of this. I am excited to learn about it when I'm attending the conference. The biggest thing is the student empowerment, to really know where they are in their learning and tracking their progress. And when kids are empowered to know where they are and how they're growing, they are going to be more present in the learning opportunities that are given to them. So I'll let Principal Noche make any additional comments.
I got another question because it didn't really answer my question at all.
Okay, we're going to
The,
give Principal Noche the opportunity to answer your question. She's
Yes.
going to answer that right now.
Yes.
Thank you, Board Member Honak.
Absolutely. All right. Good evening, Madam President, Governing Board. So to specifically speak academics with Leader in Me, it does a trifecta, if you will. So there is the empowering teacher part, where teachers positively impact students by using evidence-based instructional practices that empower their students to lead their own learning. Then not only is the empowering teachers important, but honestly, with Leader in Me and what we do at Verado Heritage, it's the empowered learners piece that Dr. Doozy has just mentioned as well. This is where we're working with the students to make sure that they have the mindset, skills, and supportive relationships that they need to take ownership of their learning. And then goal achievement is huge within Leader in Me. You see that with our data walls throughout the campus, with their student leadership portfolios. And this is where we provide the students with the knowledge, opportunity, and support to set and achieve meaningful goals, connecting their achievement to our school's wildly important goals, otherwise known as WIGs, which is a huge school-wide initiative, as well as students have those academic and behavior WIGs within their own learning at Verado Heritage.
If it's time for me to comment, I think I was on a tour of Verado Heritage and saw 7th or 8th grade class and the notebooks that they kept. But I still haven't heard anything back with Dr. Doozy. I know she's not there, but I did have a question that I thought she was hired really specifically for the purpose of improving academics. And this doesn't seem to be, this seems to be very indirectly related. And I haven't heard anything that shows that there's any correlation or any relationship to academics other than just sort of platitudes. I mean, Heritage probably was in the top anyway, the top couple of schools anyway. So we unfortunately, sadly live in a world where, metrics are called tests and test scores. And so that's what I'm referring to. Is there any evidence at all that Leader in Me is doing anything like that? Empowerment is wonderful, but I think teachers are supposed to be trained and hired to be trained, and they should be already feeling empowered. This is not a pyramid multi-level marketing business. It's a school. And so, all those things they sound nice, but we're, to be brutally honest, a failing school in terms of academics. I think we're in the 30%, 2/3 of our 8th graders are going to high school not knowing math. And I don't know how you cut the numbers there. They're abysmal. Other board members have said, yes, it's a panic. And then all of a sudden it's forgotten. And so I want to know why we're doing more of this stuff. We did conscious discipline forever. Finally, we put a halt on that. We've done, I can't remember all the different things, and not one of them has anybody come up and said, hey, look, our scores went up from this to this. So, we just spent 1.8 million bucks on.
I'd like to address your comment about how Heritage would be doing great. They started when they opened brand new school with Leader in Me. They were not testing kids before then without Leader in Me, so we wouldn't have that data. We only know that they are one of the top 3 schools in our district consistently since they've opened. Also, I think that we have seen that Leader in Me is also being implemented now at a new campus that did not have it before, and we will be able to see how that school does having that program on their campus over the next couple of years and what that looks like for academic growth. but we wouldn't have that information for Heritage. So what you're asking for Heritage, they cannot give you. However, once again, they're doing great. They're in one of the top 3 schools in our district since they opened.
Well, they
Also,
could have been
can't help
other, so
it
it just seems
because
like,
we have
again,
12 schools.
we just have another program we're going to be spending taxpayer money on that the so-called academics in our school system, one of them just recently hired to improve academics, but nobody can even give a breath of air that of a scientific data point that shows that it's worth 10 cents. I'm not saying it isn't. I'm just asking for a question about academics, since the academics at LASD are atrocious. Have to stop and think of a word
I
that's,
think the Arizona Department of Education would adamantly disagree with you, considering our GPA as a district is 3.73. Let's get back.
the
to this
Arizona
agenda.
Department of Education is the
Board members
loser
have
of the
further
country.
questions on this particular item of
I have a
out-of-state
question.
travel? Go ahead, Dr.
I
Dowling.
have a question. What days of the week is this? I didn't check my calendar. Does anybody know? Is it middle of the week?
It's a
weekend, what?
Tuesday through Friday.
Excuse me?
It's a Tuesday through Friday. There would be 4 academic days
Okay.
included in this.
My first question is, Verado, the principal, assistant principal are going to be both gone at the same time. I think legit, that's kind of odd. Number one, number two are missing, are away from the school for virtually a week.
The principal and assistant principal,
Yeah, why would you do that?
they're critical team members of the Leader in Me team that makes up and you can explain more, probably Principal Noche, about your.
I just want to know why you would take both your leaders off campus for a week. Simple.
Yeah, we have other staff that will be there to provide support for the teachers, and it's critical that the leaders of the school have the training to have sustainability. One of the opportunities during the Leader in Me conference is, and I know that the board has spoken to this specifically, is to go and tour schools that have successful Leader in Me programs that have impacted student achievement and see what those model schools are doing. So we do believe that it's critical. The people that are put on that list are put on the list for a reason, because we believe it's critical. When we look at who should be the leaders that have the opportunity to train our staff, you have to look at their level of expertise. You have to look at the role that they present as a leader, but you also have to look at their relationships they have with staff, their trustworthiness, and their credibility.
They have a
And so-
job to do, and the job is to run a school. The site principal, building principal runs the building. Assistant principal steps in when the principal's gone. Now you have them too often. I think that's an unwise decision, number one. Number two, how long has Verado had this, how long has Verado had the Leader in Me?
So I'll answer both your questions. One is, and I just learned from my teammates here, being new, I do have some newness about me with some of the plans sometimes when principals are off campus, but the executive directors do step in situations just as you've described. So, and then your answer to your question, 2015, since Verado Heritage opened.
Were these people trained previously? Have they been trained previously?
Yes, sir.
Why are they going again?
Because to sustain the program, there's always new developments, as well as visiting those role model schools to keep learning from.
So,
Principal Noche would also like to add a
so
comment.
it's currently in Verado
Yeah,
since
that is,
2015.
since we opened the doors in 2015, in
Right.
fact, before the doors opened, we even began the training process with book studies and such. So the question, if I may answer, why would we need the training again? I know Dr. Doozy had highlighted that just briefly here. We were awarded the global recognition of the Lighthouse status certification. It is a 2-year recertification program. And just because we achieved what was pretty impressive and very, just very award-winning, especially with the pandemic, is that we can't stop our learning, nor should we be okay that we reached here. Now we are going even higher. Eventually we will become a legacy school, which is very, very, very rare and not done often, and that is something that we strive to do. And with the recertification program, there is learning that still needs to take place to make sure that we are staying on top of our game with all the new research out there, as well as how can we at Verado Heritage, and then in turn continue to help Rancho Santa Fe grow, as well as then I've had other principals be speaking to me more and more in regards to Leader in Me, Franklin Covey, and what they have to offer for our schools. And I understand your concerns with both myself and my assistant principal being absent, but I have such the entire district does support systems for when we have these opportunities to come into play, to be able to be off campus. One other thing I would like to comment as well, knocking on wood as I say this, because of Leader in Me, not only do we see the academic successes, my discipline, I don't have exact numbers for you, is very minimal compared to the majority of the schools. I understand that my middle school population is half of the regular 6-8 population, but with us being gone and with the additional administrative team that I have already on campus, we are such a cohesive unit that if anything does happen, there are 3-4 others, not to mention the fabulous staff you see in front of us here as well to assist. So typically, knocking on wood, there isn't anything that arises, but now that I said this, we'll see. But we not only do we see the academic success, the discipline data is there with this program.
So the goal is to expand this. The only other interest is Rancho Santa Fe. Is that what I'm hearing?
That is not the only other school. During our study session earlier this year, you may recall, I actually requested that the board provide funding for all of our schools to implement Leader in Me, and we decided to do more of a slow approach, which is fine. And we went with one of our Title I schools who had expressed an interest, which is Rancho Santa Fe, with Principal Zuniga. And so I believe from here, we will continue to evaluate the success of this program and hopefully roll it out to additional schools. Hopefully initially 2 more of our Title I schools, as well as other principals who are interested, again, because we don't want to overload our principals with additional programs, but some of them are asking for it and some of them have other programs that are working well on their campuses. Anything to add to that, Superintendent Gunning or Dr. Duzey?
I have something I'd like to add, at least a comment here. I know, and I've been a part of this board for a long time, that we are more conservative when it comes to training, out-of-state travel, just I think based on our fiscal conservatism. But I think we're missing maybe a larger point as we're talking about some of these specifics, which are important. Number one, we are a district that believes in training. We have always been that way. We spend thousands and thousands of dollars every year to make our teachers, our staff, our administrators, and our students better. We believe in education and training because that's what we're in the business to do. So I hesitate to question the validity of training that has proven successful in one of our top performing schools year after year after year. Academics, discipline, attendance, you name it. I mean, all of the statistics are in your favor on this one. And so I think we need to sit back and let the process play out and be able to see how this affects another school who has shown that interest. I would like to say also that our job, and this is probably going to be controversial, but while our job is to teach reading and math and all of the academic courses, we are a district that believes in treating the whole child and have been since the day that I started here. And leadership and empowerment and self-esteem, those things are important. Those things are incredibly important, not only for our students, but for our teachers. And programs like Conscious Discipline, programs like Leader in Me, programs like that allow our staff to do both. And I think that's what we need to remember, that yes, we are going to try to correlate everything back to academics that we can, but there are also soft skills that kids need to learn before they go to high school. And it is our job to teach them. So I think we got to quit getting down to the nitty gritty about all of these specifics, which again, they are important, but we're missing the forest for the trees on this one, I think. Also.
What a bunch of garbage.
Thank you, Principal Noche, for being a mentor and a leader to other principals that want to do this. I know you spend a lot of time and effort training your staff and continuing this program. It is an extra job. It is not just, a program that runs on its own. It is something that you continually work at. And I think taking on another school that wants training and wants to learn is probably another set of responsibilities for you. So I appreciate that. I am impressed that other schools want to do it, knowing the amount of work that it is and training, and it's staff time after school and on the weekends and during the summer to train themselves that they don't get paid for. They do it because they want to make students better and the experience at school better. So I realize that we're all allowed to have our opinions. I just want to make sure that we go back to the values of this district that we've all agreed to many, many years ago. And the strategic plan, our administrators, everybody agrees that these values are important. And I understand money is a priority and we need to be fiscally conservative most of the time. In this example, I think we are getting more than our money's worth on this one. So
I think that we all.
And our scores show that in the last 6 years, our scores with all of this stuff have gone from, they've gone down about 30% so from then. So congratulations on all of these great programs that are so important that preempt academics. I would like to make a motion that we vote.
That's not an appropriate motion. I believe Board Member Zaidama has a comment. Go ahead, Board Member Zaidama.
So I would have the same concern as Dr. Dowling too about the having two administrators gone. However, I was able to be on a campus one day all day and their principal had to leave for half the day. And I got to see what that looks like when the principal's not on the campus. They had somebody there the entire time. If somebody couldn't stay the whole day, somebody tagged them out and there was somebody from the district level at that campus. They were never left on their own the entire time. So I have complete trust in our admin staff to make sure that they are well taken care of while their principals are gone.
I will move to approve the out-of-state travel request to attend the symposium as recommended.
I second.
Having a first and a second, I will call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
Motion carries. Next
Thank you.
item on our agenda is item 7D, approval to participate in the Aspire Teacher Certification Program to begin July 2023, and approval for a mentor stipend. This will be presented by Director Benjamin and Ms. Lewis.
President Moran, the governing board members, Superintendent Gunning, thank you so much for allowing us to present tonight. We're very excited to bring to you our version of the Educator Preparation Program. We have decided to call it the Aspire Program. And do I push the button? Yeah, okay. Oh, that's me. So basically how this came about was I was on a meeting, or I actually took a meeting with someone from the ADE, and they were talking about this EPP. And I asked them to elaborate, and we had some more discussion about it. And it basically turned out to be something that I feel like there's a lot of districts jumping on board with this, mostly the East Side districts. And I thought this would be something that would kind of go right along with our recruitment and retention program that we're trying to work on here. So we have decided that we'd like to move forward with this with your approval. It's going to basically provide coursework for our teachers who are on an emergency certificate right now. But we would also be requesting some approval of stipends that will basically run and help the program. So we, like you mentioned, that we have teamed up together because I have a fabulous colleague here that has created some amazing professional development that we have figured out we are able to piggyback on to help this program run. It goes along with our strategic alignment for student success. We're going to be able to provide qualified, the keyword qualified, trained classroom teachers for our students. We are providing this training to develop the skills and knowledge of our teacher candidates, as well as building that leadership capacity for our master teachers who would eventually be our mentors. We're going to be able to provide a quality teacher education program for our teacher candidates. And like I mentioned, we are piggybacking on an already established professional development program. So we find that it would be more fiscally responsible. Is this recommendation best for kids? We agree, yes, it is, because we're providing our highly qualified teachers in areas that are hard to fill, mostly our secondary, so middle school, and special education. It does support our students' academic success by bringing in those qualified teachers, and it is supporting our recruitment and retention, because we're hoping once the word gets out about this program that we get more people that will start on with us and hopefully stay. So just some of the current numbers. So again, we mentioned that this is for our emergency certified teachers. So currently we have 48 emergency certified teachers. And I went ahead and I broke it down a little bit because the two hard to fill areas are special education and middle school. So 6 of those emergency certified teachers are special education, 8 are middle school. 23 of those emergency certified teachers are not currently enrolled in a program to obtain their certification. That's where we want to jump in. Of those 23, 4 of them are special education and 7 are middle school. And what that really means is within 3 years, we could lose these people, because if they don't get certified within 3 years, they're out, basically.
All right, so I was able to work with Michael to find out what is the cost. So we are asking that Aspire candidates, they will not have any out-of-pocket costs for the coursework. They would still have to pay for their assessment that they have to do through ADE, and also to get the certification onto their teaching cert. But other than that, all of the cost would be housed on us, which is hopefully a reason that they would want to come and they would want to do this. The additional cost would also be for facilitators, because we would need to be having it would be myself, it would also be some of my district coaches that would be leading all of this professional development. Some of the days will be on their contract. So I just did worst case scenario up to 8 days, because they do come back later in the summer, and we would want to do a heavy portion of this in the summer. And then we would also be doing 2 Saturdays. We would also be asking for a cost for sub days for the Aspire teachers. We worked with a few of the other districts that are doing this, and they pulled them out once a month, and that seemed like a lot. We were able to get it down to 5 days. So during that time, they would be doing some of the coursework, and we would also be doing observations in other classrooms. So we would be asking for sub days for those 5 times a year. Then they would also be coming on Saturdays, but the Aspire teachers would not be paid for the Saturdays. However, we also know that mentor teachers are going to be crucial to this program. And so the mentor teachers would be paid to come in on a Saturday to work with their mentee. As well, we would need to be doing some training for our mentors. We do have some mentor programs right now, but it is based on whatever the instructional coach and the principals are doing, and it's not at the district level yet. We would like to bring that to the district level and be able to provide training. So we were guessing based on 25 Aspire teachers, and this is very hopeful that we would have 25 sign up, that this would be the cost. It is a 2-year program. They do have to get 300 hours to be able to qualify for the certification. And so that was what I just talked about, the cost of the guest teachers for 5 days throughout the school year for 25 teachers, cost of facilitators, and that is worst case scenario with 8 days in the summer and 2 on Saturdays. And then this is the mentor stipend. So what we're hoping for is that many of our mentors may choose to use their teacher leader project. However, if they already have a teacher leader project that they absolutely love and don't want to give up, we don't want to disqualify them from being able to be a mentor. So we would allow them to be able to do this for a stipend. We also know that $1,000 is not very much for a stipend for a mentor. So we would also want to make sure that we're paying them for the Saturdays that they're coming in. And then, of course, we put in the benefits and costs, because all of that does add up. All right, so the financial impact and funding. This year it would come out of ESSER funds, and then the following year it would be Medicaid as well as the Instructional Improvement Fund, and it would be split between the 2. Who's impacted? Currently, it's the current and future LESD teachers who are holding an emergency certification. These are teachers who have bachelor's degrees, but usually they've gone to school for something else and not in the teaching realm. It also impacts all of those students who are currently with emergency certified teachers. These people have never had any student teaching. We do have them in classrooms teaching our students. And so this would be a way to give them that student teaching experience. And it impacts grade levels and teams because those teams take on a great burden having emergency certified teachers who, when they've never learned to lesson plan, they don't know what our standards are. They don't know what that assessment practice looks like. So making sure that we're taking a little bit of load off of those grade level teams because right now that's very heavy on them. And of course, it's going to impact all stakeholders by having qualified teachers in our classrooms. Who qualifies for Aspire? It's going to be LESD teachers who have bachelor's degrees, but not in education. An emergency certification is only good for 3 years, like Sarah had already shared. And it would be current teachers in the LESD classroom. So we would go out to our current people now, and then if we still had additional room in our Aspire, anyone who is hired next year could be brought on if there was room available. Otherwise, they could do it their second year in teaching. The timeline, we do need to get your approval to move forward with the November 30th deadline to submit to ADE. If you do approve this, then we are looking to start the entire process. We have been working on making sure that we have the coursework ready to go, that we're looking to meet the ADE guidelines for all of that. We would be seeking master teachers for the mentor application, and we would also be putting out an application for the Aspire program itself. We would also want to start this July of 2023 for a 2-week, it would be part of the new teacher induction, but we would also be doing very specific things just for the Aspire teachers as well. And just a little bit of additional information. The State Board of Education approved the classroom-based educator preparation program. So I gave you a little bit of information about that in case you wanted more. It is only approved for 6 years right now. So I'm thinking that the Board of Education is going to look to see how this works and then decide if they want to extend it or not. So we only have 6 years to be able to do this at this point. And then finally, there are 9 other school districts that are currently implementing their own educator programs: Casa Grande, Deer Valley, Gilbert, Lake Havasu, Mesa, Paradise Valley, Prescott, Vail, Washington, and Yuma. So we would like to be the 10th. And we would be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
I don't have any questions, but I love this program. I'm so excited to see us thinking outside the box and finding ways to get teachers in. And I think this is a great way for us to get good people and get them to stay with us. So thank you so much for finding this, for having your conversation you had that brought this about. And I love, love, love this idea.
I also love it, but I do have questions, so I apologize. But I do love it as much as Melissa does. I will say that this is 100% the kind of thing that we need to be doing in order to grow adults in our community that want to be a part of our public schools. They might not have the time, money, or the know-how to go through this process. And the easier we make it for them, the easier we are going to be able to create highly qualified teachers that want to stay here and want to teach our kids. So I think this makes perfect sense. And to be quite honest, I mean, it is a lot of money, but for what we're getting out of it, I mean, potentially 25 certified teachers that would stay here. I think that cost really, the ROI would be pretty amazing on that. I will give a small shout out to Jody, because when she told us a year or so ago, if you would just let me bring on this HR generalist position, if you just give me the position, I promise you we will do good things with, not only retaining our employees, but attracting new ones. So thank you for making us stick with that, because I think programs just like this, we wouldn't have been able to do without additional staff. There's no way. This is just too much work for the limited staff we had before. So kudos to you. Okay, a couple of quick questions. Hopefully they aren't too difficult. Why do you think of the 23, so that's half of our emergency certified people are not currently in a program? I know it's anecdotal, but why do you think they're not? Is it cost? Is it time? They don't want to? What you're shaking your head? Is it all of those things?
It's both. It does cost about $2,000 for them to go through a program, and they are on a brand new teacher salary, and they are at the bottom rung of that, and they probably don't know if they really like it or not. So it's scary to try new things. So I think that it's pieces of that.
Okay, that's fair. What is the difference between a facilitator and a mentor teacher? So are the facilitators just for the summer program, or are those the same thing?
So the facilitator will be the instructor for the coursework. So those would be myself as well as the district coaches who are doing that. The mentors are on campus every day, helping with planning, supporting them on the day-to-day situations, where the facilitators are the professor.
Okay, and you're just doing that in the brief time that you guys are together as a larger group. Okay, understood. What is you mentioned a little bit about who can apply, but what is the criteria for application? So let's say this is just wildly successful year one and you have 40 people that apply. Is there a selection process, and who's going to be in charge of deciding who gets in the program?
We did talk about that a little bit. We would start with our current people right now because they will likely run out of the emergency cert before the 3 years. So we want to make sure that they have that first opportunity. We put 25 because of the funding, because of making sure we had enough budget. We would go more, but we also don't know how many mentor teachers that we're going to have. And the mentor teachers is what's going to make the program successful. So the more mentor teachers, we may be back asking for more money, but we are being very hopeful that we'll be able to find 25 that are willing to do it.
Okay. And last question, and probably the hardest one, just from the business aspect of my governing board brain, it says this is wonderful and it is amazing, but it is a cost that we can't recoup if they don't stay here. So I know you're smiling like, I've already thought about this. What is the mechanism that we can ensure? Can we legally do that and say, if you're going to do that, we may not know the answers yet, but if we're going to put 2 years into them, I do think there has to be something there that we can say, okay, your first job has to be here, or you have to give us at least 2 years of a contract. I don't know if you can do that, but what are our options?
So we actually have had several discussions about the exact same thing. And we were thinking about the 2-year return. We gave you 2 years, please give us 2 more years. Looking at possibly some sort of contract. We don't know if it's legal or anything like that, but we also wanted to look at, okay, if we broke it down, how much investment did we put into you? And possibly if you break that contract, would you have to pay it back? Something like that. But we're still just kind of mulling that around right now.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I'm absolutely in favor of the program. I think that there needs to be some guardrails in place. Like you said, I mean, legally we need to follow the rules, but if it's a sort of liquidated damages situation where if you leave, you pay back the $2,000 or whatever we invested in you, excuse me, and or you give us 2 years after that, I'm sure they're going to want to stay because LASD is awesome. But if they choose to go someplace else, we at least reap the benefits of going through that. So yeah, I mean, I'd like to see some of those guardrails put into place, but otherwise I think this is phenomenal. Thank you for your hard work.
Go ahead, Dr. Dowling.
I've got a question. Of these 23 teachers emergency certs, not currently enrolled in a program to obtain certification, are they in the first, second, or third year? How many are in the second and third year?
So the ones that are currently enrolled, I actually do not have the number of which ones are in the first or the second year. I did talk to our representative from ADE and asked about those ones that are currently enrolled in a program. How would that look if they wanted to switch over to us? And it was not recommended that we open it up to someone that's currently enrolled in a program. There were several different reasons. One of them being it would put the burden back on us, not really a burden, but it would put it back on us to decipher which courses we would accept, couldn't accept, all that kind of like where they would fit into our program. And since we're still new at this, we wanted to kind of just start fresh and new until we really get a grasp on it. Was that your question? I'm sorry.
Previously, we've had emergency certs, have we not? I mean, like forever. And after 3 years, what, just top of your head over here, what percentage stay with us? I remember we used to have, Teach for America, and then most of them would leave us. A few really hardy ones would stay and they get certified, but what kind of success have we had?
I don't know if I have that number right off the top of my head. I do know that there have been teachers that have been emergency certified that their time has run out because
Yeah.
they didn't start a program.
Yeah.
And there's been quite a few, and actually some of those children still ask to this day because they miss them. But I think a lot of that was inconvenience of having to find a program, deciding to, because their post-backs are not as popular any
Yeah.
longer and they're expensive, the expense of any kind of additional certification program. So that's where we thought that maybe we could have caught some of those people if we would have had something in-house, that they might have opted to stay with us if it was more convenient and less expensive.
Okay,
sure.
just for clarification, the State Department of Education has indicated that teachers are in this program. They will accept the coursework, the hours, for them to get their certification.
Yes, it's called a classroom-based certification and it's good for 12 years.
What's good for 12 years? The
The
cert?
the cert.
Okay.
Mhm.
How long is our program good for? In other words, do they review the program on a regular basis? They
Oh,
have
6
auditors
years.
that come out here. Do we have to renew it?
Mhm.
What?
Our program, once it's approved, will be good for 6 years.
Okay.
And just to clarify one thing, emergency certs, we're kind of in a new realm right now with emergency certifications. Now we're emergency certifying with this other bachelor's, and then you have to join a program. Previously, emergency certified teachers were actually university trained teachers, but for some reason they couldn't pass the test. They hadn't finished a class or something like that. Whereas now we're kind of in a new area.
Okay, I'm just concerned about sustainability in the future and keeping up with this program. Hopefully, after a year, I think it's a great program. I'm all for emergency search, some experts, engineers that come to us, some of your best math teachers, things of that nature. People that worked in physics come in and they want to be, hey, I want to be a teacher and I want to teach kids about physics and chemistry and things of that nature. Great teachers. I'm just worried about the sustainability going on, retaining the teachers. We have an investment. And after they get trained through us, they're going to go out for the highest bidder, especially if we have special ed teachers or science, math. I just want to make sure that we're looking at this program, talking to these, I'll call them students, for lack of a better term, these emergency certs. And hey, what can we do better? Do you think this is going to keep you here? What do you call that when you get together and you have discussions,
Well, I did already recruit one for next year. She said that she would come back if we have this program.
There you go.
So I got one.
It's a win-win situation right there.
Yeah.
Okay.
That actually is a question that you just asked. So where they are in their emergency cert, so you said they can have it for 3 years. Does that mean that only the ones that are in year one could do this program because it's 2 years and they have to be finished by the end of the third? Or as long as they're enrolled in a program, they can continue their emergency certification? Meaning, like, if I'm starting this year in year 3, this doesn't start until next year. So we really can only recruit people in year 1? Am I explaining that right?
Year 1 and year 2.
So,
Anyone-
but if they're in year 2 today, they're starting a 2-year program in year 3. So they would be year 3 and year 4. So really, if they have to be completely done with a 2-year program within those 3 years, we truly today could only recruit the teachers that are on their first year of certification. Is that correct?
It is, but there are exceptions for students that are enrolled in a program. I'm not exactly clear on what those, like I said, this is all still kind of new to us, but there are exceptions for some.
For
that are
people in those later years
enrolled in
that
a program.
if they want to enroll the program. Okay, got it. Thank you.
Any other board member questions or comments? I also think this is a wonderful program and I'm very happy to see it. I know, having worked in corporate America, there are ways to, just like you would if you did a tuition reimbursement program. If you leave the company, there are ways to pay that back. I know that we have contracted employees, and so that is a little bit different realm, but I would also be in support of something to keep, these teachers with us. Although I do know that generally our atmosphere alone, even though we may not be the highest bidder, we do have a healthy above state average teacher salary. So hopefully that would be helpful, as well as our culture that we have in place to help retain these teachers. With that, I will move to approve to participate in the Aspire Teacher Certification Program to begin July 2023 and approve the mentor stipends as presented.
I second.
Having a first and a second, I will call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next item on our agenda is the open enrollment capacity and availability presented by Executive Director Vaughn.
Good evening, Madam President, members of the Governing Board, Superintendent Gunning, colleagues, and community. Thank you for joining me tonight to update our open enrollment capacity. As a reminder, statute requires that we update our capacity for open enrollment every 12 weeks. And so this is the 12-week update. We look at the capacity that the school can hold based on the governing board approved class sizes and the teachers in each grade, as well as the expected growth for that school in that area, because we do our best to hold capacity for students that we expect to be coming, that we obviously have to take outside of the open enrollment process. As a reminder, if we get an open enrollment application and don't have capacity at the time that the application is submitted, there is a wait list process, and open enrollments are always approved based on the governing board approved priorities that are in policy and regulation. So at this time, I'm available for any questions you may have.
No, I have a question. Right now, so we're for second semester, are we taking applications for open enrollment right now? Is that traditionally?
The open enrollment application is pretty much continuously open. And so the wait lists are constantly fluctuating as new applications are received, and those are put in the different priority categories that have been identified and approved by both administration and the board. But we're constantly receiving applications for open.
I guess I could have read that. This is every 12 weeks we update, so. I'm concerned about people who, I remember when the housing boom that we experienced in Tullison Union High School, everybody thought that our little school district, 6 square miles is a city, but actually our district encompassed 106 square miles, and no one understood that. We're building houses and people were trying to enroll their kids or enrolling their kids in open enrollment, anticipating closing on a house. And sometimes, things would fall through. And so you get a kid on a list who's taking a spot away from somebody else, and it falls through, and that kid's gone. Now you're open up for one, and then I'm glad to see this, that we're staying on top of it, obviously.
Thank you for highlighting the complexity of the open enrollment process.
Yeah,
It's been a joy.
it's a great process.
The good news is that we do have certain schools that don't have any capacity because those schools have been so successful and they're so popular with the people in our community. So it's also good to see some of our schools who have been at capacity have some room available. So I think that's excellent news for people who would like to be a part of a specific school, not only within our district, but also for folks outside of our district. And correct me if I'm wrong, Executive Director Vaughn, didn't I hear that we have about 1,000 students who are on open enrollment right now?
It's somewhere between 900 and 1,000. Yeah, it's right in that ballpark. A lot of people want to come to school in Litchfield Elementary School District.
I think that's great to hear that almost 10% of our population comes from outside of our district. Any other questions on the open enrollment capacity?
No, but I will make a motion to approve the open enrollment capacity and availability as presented.
I second.
Having a first and a second, I will call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next item on our agenda is item 7F, approval of intergovernmental agreement between Litchfield Elementary School District and City of Litchfield Park for School Resource Officer Program. This will be presented by Superintendent Gunning.
Madam President, members of the governing board, we are excited to propose to you an intergovernmental agreement with the City of Litchfield Park. City of Litchfield Park provides services for their community by contracting with the Avondale Police Department. They came to us several months ago and they would like to actually move the office of their law enforcement agents that is housed currently at City Hall to actually Litchfield Elementary School, so that at any time where they're working in the office, they would have a station right here on our campus with the visibility of that. With that piece, one of the components that they did want to add, so that's where you see a cost added in there, is the addition of cameras to the campus, which is actually good timing for us as we're looking at all of the security measures as Director Benales is going around and touring our campuses. So this would be a great opportunity to pilot several cameras so that we could hopefully find something that we think would work district-wide and something that would interact with our law enforcement agencies. I would be more than happy to answer any questions.
I have probably a couple questions, but
Sure.
is this a dedicated SRO?
It's not fully dedicated full-time. It is their office, but they can support the campus at any time as needed.
Okay, but this is we know who Officer Jones is or
Correct.
Smith.
Mhm.
Okay.
So they could actually be handling city business out of that office,
Oh,
so to speak.
absolutely.
But then availability and a resource for us as well, plus the visibility of their car in the parking lot.
And the way I read this thing, with the exception of the cameras, there's no cost. We don't pay any part of the salary for this.
Correct.
Usually, from my experience, SROs would come to our schools and they'd be the highest paid police officer on the force.
Correct.
And
There is no
I
cost
never
to
saw
us.
a deal except with Avondale on occasion to where it was no cost.
So
So
it's
how
no
fast can
cost.
you sign this thing?
I know, right? And we're very fortunate and we're very lucky that the City of Litchfield Park is willing to provide the service for us.
I will say, just because I work with the City of Litchfield Park on a regular basis with my role through the church at Litchfield Park, we are sweetening the pot for them. You might say, why are they doing this? One of the reasons they're doing this is because they do want to utilize our parking lots. So with the development of Litchfield Square, they are lessening the parking available for their events. So we are doing some give. It's not all just take on our part by letting them utilize the parking lots here that are in an amazing location that they would like to utilize for their events.
I have a couple of questions. Dr. Dowling, were you finished with your questions? Okay, I just wanted to make sure that you were done. I have a couple of questions. Well, first, let's start with the parking lots because that seems to be an easy one. I don't have any issue with them using parking lots. That sounded bad. If there is some sort of school event or something like that on a weekend that the city might be using it, does the district have sort of first right of refusal? If there is something going on, we certainly don't want to make our parents park 3 blocks down the street if our parking lot has already been sort of leased out or whatever.
Correct. So we always have priority for use of facilities.
Okay. My second question is, I understand why Litchfield was chosen, because it's Litchfield Park. But I just kind of wanted to sort of put it out there that I think that if I had my druthers and I had to make a list of schools that SROs would be the most important aspect of, Litchfield Elementary wouldn't be the first one. I think we have other campuses that probably need this a little bit more. So I'm all in favor. I mean, I think we've seen it, Mabel Paget, they've done an amazing job. Same thing, you know, they have an office, they have amazing relationships with students because they're in and out all of the time, cars in the front parking lot. I mean, there's benefits, or just, you know, you could list all of them. But I do want to say, I think that we should utilize this truly as a pilot program and really look at the ROI for us as a district and say, what can we afford to do on campuses where this probably is needed. And, you know, I know we've hired security, we've done other things at other campuses because we can't afford a dedicated SRO, but I'd love to see us be able to expand this to other campuses that are more in need potentially than Litchfield.
And we continue to apply for the safety grant to do so. So this,
Right.
one of the things that I think a lot of people do not know is that Litchfield Elementary is the only school inside the city of Litchfield.
Right.
So that's, you know, a lot of times people just aren't aware of that because of the Litchfield Park address, but
Yeah.
so this is the only campus that actually is a part of the city.
Okay. Talk to me a little bit about these cameras, where they'll be placed and what they will be recording.
We're at the very beginning stages of that. So looking at other districts and what they have put into place and what is working well. So there are several districts, Scottsdale being one of them, as well as, oh gosh, outside of Camp Verde. I'm trying to think of the name of it right now, but it's slipped me. But are partnering with their local law enforcement agencies in looking at the cameras. So mainly what law enforcement is looking at is they like to be able, it's very helpful in securing a campus if they can access the cameras live and only an emergency event, if that makes sense. So that way, if it's an emergency, they can access and then direct law enforcement officers throughout the campus. So that's something that we need to look at is explore that, like how many, where do we put the cameras? Original conversations were just at the front door, but is that really all? What type of cameras? And there's now cameras that do a lot of different things. So we need to explore, and we honestly have no idea on, that's why we put the range of the cost, because we're really not sure on the expense of, you know, of the cameras. And a lot of the districts have done it on a large mass. So trying to see like, what would it be to start off, and then potentially be something that we would look at for funding in the future to do district-wide, but wanting to see something consistent because of course, even working with our technology, our current technology and installation and those types of things, you want to have something that's consistent throughout the district so that they're not, you know, what brand is this one? Now I got to look it up, you know, that type of thing.
And you mentioned that the law enforcement would have access to these cameras on an emergency basis. I'm assuming with your or the school district's approval of that. Who else would have access to this footage, either in an emergency situation, or let's say something happened 2 days ago, or, you know, when we decided we needed to go back and look, I know we've done that several times with our own bus footage and school bus footage and things like that. Who has access to that and how do they get it?
So typically it would be the principal that would have access to the cameras of the footage. The recordings of camera footage just depends on the camera type. Sometimes it re-records over itself every 48 hours, sometimes, you know, so we'd have to look at those types of things. So the school site could use the cameras on a different way or a different purpose. Law enforcement would only access in an emergency. Once we got to that stage, we'd be bringing back another additional agreement that would be between us and Avondale PD in regards to the cameras.
Okay. So I guess what you're saying is besides the school district, law enforcement is the only other entity that would have access to this footage?
Correct.
Okay. Okay, got it.
So can I just ask 2 clarifying questions with that? The first question is, I think I hear you saying, but I want to clarify that these cameras will not be inside classrooms. These would be external building, maybe external hallway between buildings, but not inside classrooms.
They're not in the classrooms, no.
Okay. And then my second clarifying question with that is, does this camera footage become public record and requestable by members of the public?
Potentially. Say the same, I would think it would be the same as any bus footage. How we handle that.
I think that makes it, I mean, that President Moran is going in the exact
I
direction
think-
I want to go to. I just want to
Yeah.
make sure that we're saying we don't know where the cameras are going to go. We say we don't know how long they're going to be active or they're going to re-record. I mean, all of those details are extremely important because the privacy, I'm all for safety. I absolutely open the door to law enforcement to do whatever they need to do. What I'm more concerned about is the privacy of our students. If this is open to everybody and it's depending on what's being done, I just want to make sure that parents know what is out there.
And I know that even when we've had, that you have to blur out, so there's not like, you can't identify the student.
Okay.
So due to their safety. So there will be probably other things once we get closer to that. That's why we gave ourselves some time for implementation, because there potentially could be some policy changes that we would have to bring back to you,
Okay.
as well as agreements with Avondale PD directly.
Okay.
So that, it's not, they don't want the expectation of having a computer in front of them that they're supposed to be watching the cameras all day long. That's not their expectation either.
Absolutely.
So we want to make sure all of that is clear.
Yeah. And I just want to be clear. I don't have any issue whatsoever with law enforcement having access to our cameras. So, I mean, they're there to keep our children and our staff safe, and that's absolutely what they should be doing. I just want to make sure that we're thinking long-term and thinking about, we haven't had this before. This is the first time we're doing a program. So just want to open our eyes to what could be coming from that and make sure we're making solid decisions. So I'm all in favor of having additional law enforcement on our campuses.
Superintendent Gunning, can I say something?
Sure.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
Go
I just
ahead.
wanted to follow up on something you said. In the, our current practice is under the recommendations of our attorney is that in any of our schools that have working cameras or our buses, if a parent of a child who is in the video would like to watch the video, they can come in and watch it with, with the administrator.
Okay.
But we have always been advised that we're unable to send them a copy. Now, I
Okay,
think it's
that's good
something
to know.
that we need to look into further when we do it school-wide and just really get guidance from our attorney. But that's our current practice that we've been recommended to follow under our attorney's guidance.
Okay, perfect. That answers the question. Thank you.
Any other board member questions on this IGA?
I have one more question. I don't know why I didn't think of this. The city of Goodyear contracts with the city of Litchfield for police services.
City of Litchfield contracts with
Goodyear.
Avondale.
Avondale.
Avondale?
Yeah, correct. Avondale PD.
We used to contract with Maricopa County Sheriff's Office. And now we,
Because I live on a county island and we have the sheriff. Okay. All right. That was my only question.
all right, then I will move to approve the intergovernmental agreement between Litchfield Elementary School District and City of Litchfield Park for School Resource Officer Program as presented.
I second.
Having a first and a second, I will call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. We will now move on to our information and discussion agenda items. First item in that section is item 8A, first reading and discussion of revisions to governing board policies GBI, staff participation in political activities, and JJIB, interscholastic sports. This item will be presented by Superintendent Gunning.
Madam President, members of the governing board, we present to you governing board policies C, GBI, and JJIB. The additions to those policies are highlighted in yellow.
I just had one really quick question on the first one, which would be GBI, staff participation in political activities. I see the highlighted yellow part. It doesn't seem to me that it fundamentally changes what we were allowed to do and what we aren't allowed to do. Was this due to a law change, or was just due to further clarifying specific activities, because it seems like we're calling them something else, but there's still things we weren't able to do all along.
Correct. So in several of these policies, when legal counsel was reviewing the policies in various districts throughout the state, they noticed that these components were left out. So they came back to make these recommendations.
Okay, so no new laws, just clarifying language
Correct.
to make sure we're in.
On that one.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions on these policies? I will remind you, this is a first read. We will not be taking action on these, but this is an opportunity to submit any requests for changes to these policies.
Actually, I would say, I don't think that this changes anything at all whatsoever, but on the policy JJIB, the lines, there is like designations between males, females, and co-eds, and there's A, B, and B and C are on the same line. I don't think it's supposed to be that way. Again, I don't think it changes the context of this, but just want to make sure that grammatically we add those separately so that B and C don't look like they're the same, because I think they are supposed to be two different things on the first page of that JJIB. Again, I don't think it changes the meaning of it, but just to make sure they don't appear to be the same thing, because I think the female and co-ed or mixed were two different descriptions.
Thank you for your eagle eye, Board Member Clymer. Any other comments on the first read of these policies? All right, then we will move on to agenda item 8B, the Learning Recovery Scorecard update, which is going to be presented by Superintendent Gunning.
We only have a couple of updates for you. So we, per your request, are bringing this back monthly to our regular meetings. So you probably won't see as many updates as you typically would. One of the things that we wanted to update you on was the professional development. We have an outline of the PD that will be occurring over the next several months with Solutions Tree in regards to PLCs. The other thing, there was some updated budget information. And then the other point, an update was some training and consultation that we are doing with math experts to enhance our skills of our math specialists. And then the security guard positions, we wanted to let you know they were posted. So we're still in the recruitment process for those. So those are the only updates that we have at this time for the learning recovery.
I have a question. Do we, so especially on the second piece, the ESSER $3, which is the big chunk that's here, we have a total grant of $7 million. We've spent about $100,000. So do we expect that that's going to accelerate at some point? I know it's not going to be an even allocation, Executive Director Vaughn, like each month, we're not going to see that being spent down, but at what point are we going to see an acceleration there? Because we're getting closer to the date we have to have this spent by.
Yeah, I would expect an acceleration. We're in the process of looking at what ESSER is looking like and the timeline. Right now, a lot of focus is on that first page, the Educate Up grant, just due to the timing of when that funding expires. So presently, there's several positions in the second ESSER grant, which I anticipate the district will likely be asking the governing board their thoughts on continuing them in ESSER 3. So that will help spend it down. And then we are presently looking at the concept of what we can do around retention and recruitment. So similar to what's in line with what we saw tonight with that academy, with the governing board approval of that. So those costs will go into ESSER, as well as we're hoping to look at some additional things around retention and recruitment, because we're seeing that as a hot spot, as the governing board has also pointed out in several of our schools. So long-winded answer is yes, I do think we'll see a acceleration, but that's something that the team is presently looking at as well.
Okay, I guess, I think what I would like to see, if this is possible, and I know you have many, many numbers that you look at, but based on our current plan, because we're saying we've allocated $6 million of that, if we could get maybe a year by year breakout for that. So if we could say by the end of current fiscal year, we expect this much to be spent, so that we can know if we're on track for that. Because now I feel like we've had these funds for a while, we've been tracking this, but we're saying they're allocated, we're not really seeing them being spent. I just want to make sure we're on track as much as we think we should be going through this process.
That makes sense. So a targeted spent date, and what that look and where we are against that target.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I mean, obviously, we're going to spend all of it, but I want to make sure that we're being thoughtful about that. And I know that especially some of the staffing issues are really out of our control, and we're doing our best to fill those positions. So that's part of one of the reasons that we are less in the actual spend category than we would have liked to have been at this point. Do any other board members have questions or comments on the?
I had just one more, it's just a comment. I just wanted to say in regards to the after-school tutoring program, Megan Duplain, John Scudder, thank you guys so much. I see the numbers are back up to 357 students. What a huge jump just from the month previous. I mean, it had to be those, what, $10 stipends that we gave everyone. I mean, I'm sure that's what, or $20, whatever it was last time. But thank you for working so hard. I know we saw tremendous success last year through tutoring and summer school, and it is not easy to find that many certified staff that have the time and energy after their regular day to do this. But 357 students is impressive, and we're almost back up to where we were just last spring. And if we can keep that going, that seems like an amazing use of $81,000. We could spend 3 times that amount if we had the right, if we have the right staff. So thank you for working hard on that. Appreciate it.
Okay, I think that's it. Anything else you'd like to add, Superintendent Gunning?
No, I'm just up next again. So
Okay.
I'm just going to stand
Great.
here.
Then we will move on to agenda item 9A. And I want to start by apologizing to you because I did not give you the opportunity to introduce us to our new principal. So please do that at this time with your report.
So I'm very excited for my board report. And I don't know if you could see me doing sign language from across the room because they were trying to leave. And I was like, no. Almost there, almost there. I would love to introduce Kara Fox, our brand new principal for Scott Livy Elementary. I know it was a long wait, but I'm telling you, it was completely worth it.
Thank you. Good evening, Madam President and governing board members. I would like to briefly introduce myself. My name is Kara Fox, and I am the proud new principal of Scott Livy Elementary. Go Roadrunners. And I just feel so blessed to be back in the Litchfield Elementary School District. This is truly my home. I spent 17 years serving in this district as a teacher, as a reading specialist, and a behavior coach. And this is my home, and I'm happy to be home. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We're happy that you're here and I appreciate your patience. Again, that was completely my bad. So sorry for blowing your evening on that one.
So run home and get some rest for your first day.
I was about to say, day one, and you stayed the entire governing board meeting. I mean, that is a gold star effort if I've ever seen one. So thank you. Congratulations. It's great to have you on board.
And then some other celebrations, which I know we talked about these earlier tonight, but I just cannot resist the fact to celebrate Wellborn Time. Leslie Willis, principal of Mabel Pageant for the Arizona Health and Physical Ed recognition, as well as Kelly Jordan, the PE teacher at Palm Valley. If you have not met Kelly Jordan, you need to meet Kelly Jordan. She's absolutely amazing and a well-deserved award for her, and especially with the adaptive class that she has created for all of the children there at Palm Valley. And then our 12A rated schools, which, you know, it was very nice to be able to say to Superintendent Heck, I did something that you did not do. So I loved that. He was very proud of me. Just so you know, he'll tell you he hired me, which he did. And then, of course, our M&O override with the not the final numbers in completely, but pretty sound, and they stayed consistent throughout the entire time. I just want to thank all of our community members and everyone who worked so hard and shared information. Very, very appreciative of that, because now we'll be able to continue to support our schools, retain our teachers, and have a nurse at every campus. So that is something that, and now we can rest for another, several years, which will be nice. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Superintendent Gunning. We will now move on to agenda item 9B, reports for governing board members. Dr. Dowling, would you like to start this evening?
Absolutely. I just like to say to the superintendent, Jody, that congratulations on passing the override, and you and your team, you deserve it. Community members, whoever helped put up the signs, and now you got to take them down. But that's the thrill of victory. At least you do it and you're happy. But congratulations. Unfortunately, when an override does not pass, they blame that person right there. It's easy. But when it does pass, you need to tell them good job. And then the last thing I have is happy birthday to Michael Vaughn. It's his birthday. He's 30 years old. And I actually remember when I was 30 years old. And it was a very good year for me. I won't tell you why, but it was a good year. With that, that's all I have.
Board Member Clymer?
Yes. Is it actually today? Today is your birthday?
Yes.
Wow.
That's why we really had cake, was for his
That's why we
birthday.
really had cake. Yeah, we should have had a bigger cake. Happy birthday. Thank you for spending it with us. I mean, this is everyone's dream, is to spend their birthday at a governing board meeting. So you really are one of the team now, for sure. Solid and locked in. Okay, well, I will preface this saying the last two meetings I have been really, really good about trying to have a short board report. So I'm gonna take a little leeway here, and it might be a little bit longer than my last two, but I'm gonna try and do it really quickly. There's just so many amazing things that have been happening in our district. I want to echo what Dr. Dowling said. Thank you to our community members who supported our district override. Thank you to Superintendent Gunning, your administrators, teachers, staff that worked tirelessly to educate our community about what an override is, what it does not do, and how it directly affects our students and our community every day. It is not easy to follow up a failed override with a positive one, and our community came in huge. So thank you to everyone who supported it, both with your vote, but also the folks that worked hard and beat the pavement to get it done. It's a very tall endeavor. I was lucky enough to go to 3 school showcases in the last month. So I just want to say a very quick shout out and thank you to Principal Hill, Principal Acosta, and Principal Willis, Dreaming Summit, Barbara Roby, and Mabel Paget for hosting the governing board with Thanksgiving feasts and parent activities and, governing board showcases. There's all kinds of things going on their campuses every day, and they managed to still do an amazing job and welcome us into the classrooms, into their conference rooms where they sit and they have data walls, and they show us all of the PLC process. They show us everything that our decisions up here affect every day. We don't actually get to see it in practice, so it's really an honor to be able to see everything that our staff is doing. So thank you for that hard work. One of my favorite activities of the year, Principal Willis is gone now, but thank you to Principal Willis and to the Mabel Paget PTO for inviting the board members to judge the pumpkin contest. As Executive Director DeCoste, as a former principal of Mabel Paget, this is no joke. This is a very serious competition. students, teachers, room moms. I mean, they pull out all the stops. It is Pinterest on steroids, and they do a phenomenal job of engaging with the entire student body, and everyone is just super excited. They have a ton of prizes and all this kind of stuff. So thank you for continuing to invite us. This is the fun stuff. This is the, you know, bucket fillers of just, you know, pure joy. So thank you to Mabel Paget for inviting us. Just a quick congratulations to all of our middle school fall teams, boys and girls volleyball, boys and girls soccer. So many awesome district wins and district championships, and excuse me, regional championships for those teams. So congratulations to all. And we're already on to, I think, winter sports at this point. But also, Melissa and I actually participated together at Love Our Schools Day, Rancho Santa Fe. Thank you for hosting us. Cobwebs, spiders, you know, lots of sweeping up, cleaning up the courtyard, beautifying the campus. Again, thank you for letting us get our hands dirty and support you guys on the ground. It was really fun. Everyone was very gracious host. We had, I think, some Pebble Creek Rotarians with us. We had some other parent volunteers, and it was just really great to see the community come together to, you know, literally get their hands dirty and help our schools be a better place for our kiddos. So thank you. I attended the Veterans Day luncheon hosted by Agua Fria School District, Avondale, and of course our own school district is part of that as well. Second annual event, got to go last year and this year. What an awesome display of support from our community. Obviously Luke Air Force Base, we have many veterans here, and it's just a really nice way to come together as a community and celebrate those that have done so much for us. So thank you to the school district, all of the people that were involved in making that happen. It's an honor to go and represent a district that places that kind of importance on our veterans. So thank you. And last but not least, it might take a second, but this is, we're about to celebrate Thanksgiving in 2 weeks. And, you know, I think this is the time that we start to be a little retrospective and think about all the things we're grateful for the year. And I just want to just say a few quick things that I am grateful for as in my place as a board member. First, I am grateful for our students. Their resiliency in the face of adversity and their innovation and imagination will propel them to great things in life, and don't let anybody tell you differently. I am grateful for our parents and caregivers. The love and care you show for your students is unparalleled, and your support for our teachers and staff allows this district to remain at the top year after year. I am grateful for our district administrators and our support services staff. You pour your heart and soul, and sometimes blood, sweat, and tears, into every single one of our kids in our community, and you never forget we are serving the whole child, not just pursuing academic success, but making sure they will be successful beyond the classroom. So thank you. And last but not least, I am grateful for our teachers and our staff that work hard and work hand in hand every day with our students, our most important assets. You nurture, love, challenge, teach, support, and most importantly, show up every single day to enrich the lives of our children. Thank you. I am grateful for you all.
Board members, Idema.
I want to go before Danielle next time. So I did a lot of the same things as Danielle did. We were able to go on 3 showcases. Going to Dreaming Summit was great. Their kids were really awesome when they walked us around. They have a bunch of different clubs and ways that their kids are getting to be leaders on campus. I love seeing our kids be leaders. Also, they really want swings, which I understand is not going to be able to happen, but just letting you know, Dan Ping, that they were talking about how they're trying to get a petition to get swings for their big kids. We also were able to go to Barbara Roby, and I think that that school was the first school we saw where kids were really using the technology everywhere. It was really awesome to see that. Also, they have great data everywhere, like up on their walls and their classrooms. It was a really awesome thing to see the kids knowing where they're at and how the school was using that data to then make decisions and to move forward and what they were going to do with the kids at any given moment. And you could tell that everybody knew exactly where each of their students were based on their data that they had. So it was really awesome to see that. We were able to go to Mabel, and when we were there, we got to see a lot of different learning strategies that they were using. We got to go into lots of classrooms there. So it was really exciting because each campus shows us different things and we have different discussions and it kind of trails off. But Mabel was like in a ton of classrooms the whole time. It was super exciting. And also kudos to Mabel and Barbara Roby for having us on the same day as their Thanksgiving feast. So that was a lot to take on, but we appreciate that you had us there. And I love seeing all the parents and the kids on campus. So it was great to see that. And then because Mabel had their parents there, we were able to get a lot of Mabel swag. So that was kind of fun because I am trying to get a shirt for every campus. While we were at Dreaming Summit, we were invited, if we were able to attend, to come to their assembly. So they have their Top Dogs assembly, and the students asked us if we could come. So I was able to come that day, and I got to come and see, and it was super fun to see the kids being celebrated. Parents love to come out and see their kids getting awards, and literally it takes 5 seconds to say their name, but the parents, it's like the best day of their lives. So I love seeing schools that are doing that. I'm glad we're seeing that happening more and more now, and we're getting back to our normal. And I got to judge their little chant contest. Each of the grades makes a chant, and then they asked me to pick, and that was really hard. There was 2 that were really good, so it was very difficult. But I did pick 4th grade. They did amazing. We also were invited to do the pumpkin decorating contest. That was fun. I did that last year with my little one. Now she's in school, so she was super mad that she did not get to go with me this time because they are the most amazing pumpkins I have ever seen. Danielle's not wrong. It's Pinterest on steroids, but they were fantastic. I got to take a few pictures and show my kids because one of my kids is super into Charlotte's Web, and they had a Charlotte's Web pumpkin. So it was super fun. I love seeing that we do that and that they got to do that. Some other fun things, because it's October last month, is that lots of schools had trunk or treats or Halloween festivals and things like that. And I was lucky enough, I guess you could say, to get to go to 3 schools within 3 hours on the 28th of October. Because we went to Corte that was doing their first ever trunk or treat, and the line was all the way down out of the campus, around down the street. There were so many parents there. So I think that tells you our families are ready to get back to doing family events and being at our schools. So I sincerely hope that they take that and run with it and do more events. I also got to go to Rancho that same night for their Halloween festival. It was super fun. The kids had a great time. It's always fun. Like, we got to go last year, this is the 2nd year, and it was just fun to see how that goes. And they have their book fair there, so it's a really fun event. And then we got to end our night because my oldest daughter was volunteering to help at Litchfield Elementary School's trunk or treat cleanup. So I got to go there for the last half hour of their trunk or treat. They had a lot of cute trunks. It was very fun. Those events where we get families out and engaging, that's how we're going to get them in, and that's how we're going to get them invested in what's going on. Is you start out with just getting them to come to some fun family event where they can interact with their kids, and then as they do that more and they're more comfortable, they're going to want to be there more. They're going to volunteer more. They're going to start having more engaging conversations. So I think that the more we can do that at our schools, the better it's going to be. I went to Rancho for Love Our Schools Day, got to knock down a lot of cobwebs, pull down a lot of tape from decorations that have been left up on the beams and stuff. But I know that my kindergartner there will be very happy to not have little spider webs right outside her classroom anymore. So it'll be good for them. I also got to volunteer at a book fair and on a field trip this month. And I love volunteering at book fairs. So literally, if there's a school that's having a book fair and they need volunteers, you can email me and I will totally come and do it because I love helping at book fairs. And I love that we're going on field trips. We went on a field trip. I know some other schools have already started going on field trips. So that's super fun part of school. We need to bring back that fun stuff for kids so that they are excited to be there and do those fun activities. Volunteering. I can't encourage you guys enough. Volunteer in our schools. Parents, caregivers, we've got retired people in the community. Find a way to get involved, get hooked up with our schools and volunteer, because we can't do it alone. We have to be a team. And so the more people we get involved in this team, the better our students are going to be. I attended the Veterans Day Luncheon, which is a special event because my son is in the Navy. So it was really awesome to see us celebrating these people in the different districts that had served in the military before they came and then are now serving in our schools. I am so appreciative of all of those people, and it gets you, as a mom, makes you a little misty when they start singing songs. And I thought it was really cool that you guys did the challenge coins for all the veterans that were there. And that it was really strange to see some kids that were like my kids' age that were there. And I'm like, wow, these kids are babies. But I guess, that's one of the things Trey Terry actually said while he were there, is he talked about how these kids are basically putting their lives on hold to serve our country and to protect us and keep us safe. And that's so true. So I'm appreciative for every single person that chooses that path in their life and protects our country. And on to our celebrations, 12 A's. That is amazing. That is absolutely amazing. And all of our schools are doing fantastic. And yeah, we had a few that might have slipped back, but our C school is so close, right? So fact of the matter is that our schools are doing great and I'm so proud of all of them. I do have to do a huge shout out to Corte though. They went from a C school to an A school, and that is a lot of work. And that is an amazing thing that their school did. So kudos to them, to their principal, to all their teachers for all the work that they put in to make that happen. We are so proud of them. I also have a student there, so it's pretty exciting for their school. The principal was very excited to be able to share that with everybody. So lastly, our election, I am thankful, like Danielle talked about being thankful. I'm thankful that we as a community value public education here in this Litchfield district, and that we chose to use our voice to vote to approve our override so that our kids can continue to have the quality that they are expected to have, that we have put for them every single year in this district. And I'm very happy and thankful that we are not looking at making cuts in the future, because our community decided, no, we are going to put more money into our schools, and voting is the best way to use your voice. We have some people sometimes that are loud out in the community and might be saying negative things, but we need to remember that our 12 A's show us how our schools are doing. The fact that we are the top, like one of the top 15 districts in the state, tells us how we're doing. And the fact that our community rallied because of that and said, we are going to invest in our schools. So thank you to our community that put our public schools first when they voted. And that's all.
Board Member Honak? Okay, then I will move on to my report. Before I get into the nitty-gritties, now that I'm aware that it is Executive Director Vaughn's birthday, we will have to sing, so please join me. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Michael. Happy birthday to you. Thank you for being here on your birthday, because I'm extremely protective of my birthday and probably would not have shown up. So
I think you were trying to give me the option because you notice I didn't have a laundry list of presentations tonight.
that is true. That is true. Happy birthday, Michael. Well, being November, my theme for the month is going to be gratitude. So I think the ladies and I are on the same wavelength there. We have much to be thankful for, including this month, I was able to participate in Love Our Schools Day. I had the privilege of scrubbing lunch tables alongside a fun and hardworking group of folks out at L. Thomas Heck Middle School. Thank you to all the staff, parents, students, and community members who participated in this program, not only at Heck, but at the other schools as well. Your involvement really makes a difference. I'm also thankful this month for betterment in our letter grades. We already celebrated tonight, but I would be remiss if I did not also mention this huge accomplishment. As Board Member Zaidama mentioned earlier, I decided to wear my Corte Sierra shirt tonight because they got the MVP in this year's grades. So I am hopeful that next year I will wear my Heck shirt and they will get the MVP award next year when they come up from their current grade. I am usually the type to celebrate for about a minute, the length of the happy birthday song, and then move on to the next piece of work. But I've committed myself to take the month of November to relish this win for our district. A 3.7 GPA for our district is a huge accomplishment. We have been knocked down so many times in the last few years, and I don't want us to rush past this accomplishment. I want us to take the time to really celebrate and to sit with that and allow ourselves to take a minute to be proud. And I'm going to take the entire month of November. That's my commitment, and I hope that you do too. Your excellence is evident in our grades, and I am proud of you and for you. And finally, I am thankful for free and fair elections. Two pieces to that. Number one, I appreciate every community member who voted on or before November 8th. I'm grateful for the local support of our budget override measure that allows us to continue to pay teachers more than the state average, maintain special programs like PE and music, and keep our exceptional nurses on every campus. This override passed by the highest margin since 2008, which speaks volumes about the continued confidence the community has in LESD. I am grateful to every person who volunteered their time and talents to the Continue the Quality Political Action Committee. I have volunteered my time with that committee for many years, and I know how much work it takes to run a successful campaign. So I am grateful to each and every one of you who contributed to that. I'm also grateful to be reelected and continue serving the students, families, and teachers of LESD for another 4 years. I would specifically like to thank my husband, Patrick, and my children for their never-ending support, as well as my grassroots team. You know who you are. Thank you for instilling your trust in me. Being a governing board member is an honor and a privilege, and I am grateful to serve and excited to see our students and staff continue to grow and excel. So in the spirit of staying in an attitude of gratitude and celebration this month, I'll close with lyrics from the song Home by Blue October. I can't wait to see what's around the corner. I can't wait to soar. That is it for my board presentation this month, but I would like to offer another note of gratitude to our administrators for submitting their reports. Every month, us board members read through those and get updated on not only what's happening on our campuses, if we were not able to visit those campuses, but also what's happening in each of our departments. And all of those pieces of the puzzle work together to create a successful district. So we appreciate you keeping us up to date on your individual departments as well.
I motion to adjourn.
I'll second. Having a first and a second, I will call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. This meeting is now adjourned.